So over the past few weeks, Scott Moffat of Nintendo, who is this guy right here, has been discussing the Wii U and how innovative he thinks the Gamepad is. So this comes from an article available on Wii U Daily, who discusses some of the quotes that Scott Moffat has been making to the Examiner over the last couple of weeks or so, discussing Nintendo, their current role in the marketplace, how he and Nintendo feel about the Wii U, and also the Gamepad. Now, what's interesting about the article is that it sort of spins some of the words he's saying as him slighting the competition like Sony and Microsoft with their boxes and their lack of innovation. And I think that they're sort of reaching a little bit to kind of read that deeply between the lines. I don't necessarily think that's exactly what he's getting at. But he does have a couple of interesting quotes that I thought were pretty cool, and I wanted to discuss my feelings on regarding the Wii U and the Gamepad and innovation. So first quote here, he says, "That's our real secret sauce, is the Gamepad. It's the only real innovation in this console cycle. It's the only real new idea or game experience, and with Super Mario Maker, it shows you how magical it is to create levels with that Gamepad. It's so easy and intuitive." He goes on to say, "Then with Star Fox, it's showing how the Gamepad can give you a different view into your game world. You're piloting the R-Wing and you're getting a cockpit view on the Gamepad. I think those types of experiences may help us propel the system to new heights." Pretty interesting words that I certainly agree with, and it got me thinking about how innovative the Gamepad truly is and how innovative the gaming industry and gamers should really look at it. I think that there's positives and negatives to the Gamepad and to its role in the marketplace. Some of these things are Nintendo's fault. Some of these things are game developers' fault. Some of these things are kind of even the fault of the gamer. And some of these things are nobody's fault. It's a very interesting little pickle and scenario that the Wii U is in. I find these quotes interesting because he discusses the Wii U, the Gamepad, how innovative he thinks it is. And he also brings up at the very end of that last quote, bringing the system, meaning the Wii U, to new heights based on how innovative they think it can be with gameplay. And I certainly agree in that potential of the Gamepad, absolutely. You've heard me praise the Wii U and the Gamepad many, many times. But in lieu of this year's E3 and all these recent signs that we've all been reading into, as to whether or not Nintendo's moving on from the Wii U and focusing on the NX as a very soon upcoming replacement to the Wii U, I just find these quotes curious, and the fact that he talks about bringing the Wii U to new heights when a lot of us have been feeling maybe Nintendo's stepping away from the Wii U and moving on. So what role the Wii U is supposed to play in Nintendo's immediate future, I really don't know. Their E3 showed us that they're not bringing any new surprise games to the Wii U this year in 2015. There are still some amazing games coming. I actually am going to make a video pretty soon talking about what we can be playing on all three consoles. And there is no doubt that the Wii U has far and away the most content to play this year, especially the most content that I'm excited about. I'll be playing like 5, 6, 7 Wii U games and like 1 or 2 maybe on my Xbox or PlayStation. That's a pretty big deal. There's definitely good games in 2015. However, there doesn't seem to be anything planned for 2016. And even if there are games planned for 2016 for the Wii U, we don't know them yet. And I think that's kind of the bigger problem. If Nintendo really is planning on supporting the system in 2016, they're making a huge mistake in not actually telling us what those games are and showing them to us. So it kind of makes me and a lot of other people think that, yes, 2016 is going to usher in the end of the Wii U and the beginning of the NX. At this point, a lot of us are excited about it. I'm excited for the NX, even though I'm going to lament the premature loss of the Wii U. But, needless to say, that seems to be what the signs are pointing towards, that the Wii U is going to be going away. So whether or not he really means it when he says we're trying to propel the system to new heights, I have no idea. That's a little bit confusing for me to kind of pick apart and dissect. However, his words about the Gamepad, its role with the Wii U and with the innovative nature of the industry, as well as the few games he brought up, Mario Maker and Star Fox, I do still agree with, and I want to talk about that. So the real crux of this whole discussion, is the Gamepad the most innovative piece of hardware or new thing brought into the gaming space this generation? Yes, absolutely. I have to agree 100%. I think what the Gamepad affords developers when creating games, as well as what it can do for us as gamers whether we're navigating the system, its online network in the Miiverse, or playing certain games, I think that it cannot be matched by the competition. I like my PlayStation 4. I like my Xbox One. But they just can't match with the Gamepad, some of the things that the Gamepad allows us to do, and some of the other things that the Gamepad could do that maybe Nintendo isn't doing with it. So you kind of get into a gray area, though, on what the good and the bad are. But I will say that when I play games like Zombie U, and when I play games like Pikmin 3, Wonderful 101. I made a list of my 5 favorite gamepad games. Rayman Legends is another amazing game that uses the gamepad. Even games from a studio that I don't like, Ubisoft, Splinter Cell was fantastic with the gamepad. There are so many amazing things we can do with that thing that makes gaming better. And to me, we've only been scratching the surface. Both Nintendo and the few third-party developers that have put time into the gamepad have only been scratching the surface on what you could probably do as far as implementing new game mechanics into that gamepad that couldn't be replicated on the competition's machines. I think that's fantastic. I'll tell you what, right here and now, you give me any machine or any controller that I would prefer to play games with, it's going to be the Wii U and it's going to be that gamepad. Even though there are some amazing games on the PlayStation and Xbox, it just doesn't compare, I think that as far as standard controllers go, I think the Xbox One controller is the best, even over the Wii U's Pro controller. But as far as just the controller, the default controller for all 3 consoles currently in the 8th generation, the gamepad smokes it. The gamepad can do everything an Xbox or a PlayStation controller can do. The end. You talking about movement? Like gyro sensing controls? The gamepad has it. Are you talking about the ability to A, B, X, Y buttons? It has it. Dual triggers on each side. It's got a dual analog sticks, a D-pad, a home button. It's got all of those things. It can do a speaker on the controller like the DualShock 4. It's got it. But the gamepad can do so much more because it's also seamlessly integrated and connected into the system's UI, and it's got that touchscreen, and it has a camera built onto the front of it. It can do so many more things. So where the gamepad can do everything that the competition's controllers can do, the competition's controllers can absolutely not do everything that the gamepad can do. I think that's a huge benefit to the gamepad and to the Wii U, immensely so. And like I said, when you look at what you can do with some of the games that have been created using the gamepad, it's amazing. I would prefer to play games with full gamepad support, doing crazy new ideas any day of the week over a standard game with a standard controller. Even though I like some games that play standardly better than some games on the Wii U, if I had to pick, I'm going to pick what the gamepad could do. Now, the caveat to all of this is that the gamepad also has to be utilizing its full potential. And it takes Nintendo to do that, and it takes other developers who make games on the Wii U to do that. And to be fair, you can easily say that the full potential of the gamepad absolutely has not been realized, not even by Nintendo. When you look at a game like Donkey Kong Country, for example, Tropical Freeze, made by Nintendo, not really using the gamepad. Mario 3D World kind of uses the gamepad, but not to any full extent that it probably could have, and it's not revolutionary. I feel like they really kind of dropped the ball on that one because that game could be playable without the gamepad. And I think that when a game is built around the gamepad, like Zombie U, for example, that's when you're really taking advantage. Also, third-party developers. Let us not forget the Watch Dogs debacle. And I am somebody who owns Watch Dogs on the Wii U. And as a game, I really enjoy Watch Dogs. But did they completely shit the bed creating a gamepad-centric experience for Watch Dogs on the Wii U? Absolutely. And it's examples like that show me that the industry, I don't think, was ready to really think outside the box with something like the gamepad. And I don't really know if that's something that you can fault Nintendo on for bringing out something like this when it wasn't really the right time in the market or not. I don't really know. Miyamoto's made comments about whether or not they were probably behind the curve and thinking that the industry was ready for something like a gamepad, and it turns out that the touchscreen mobile tablet market ate up way too much of the market too early, and it became not the right time to release a system with the gamepad controller. He brought that up himself, and I do kind of have to agree. But at the end of the day, I don't really know where the fault lies. I do just think that it's been a shame that companies have shown that they're not ready to make games using this gamepad. Watch Dogs is the prime example. How they made a game about computer hacking in the real world where your character has a cell phone, a touchscreen cell phone that he uses to control everything from his weapons to the hacking to his inventory. How the hell did they not take that and at least put that on the gamepad and treat the gamepad like it's the cell phone your character has in the game? I have no idea how they did that because it's Ubisoft and they're lazy, but they're not the only developer to do so. I was expecting more out of something like the first 2 Call of Duty games that we had on the Wii U. I was expecting a lot of the ability to treat the screen like you're in a virtual world, like you're using your sniper scope or something on the gamepad and you're moving it around looking at that screen. You can do so much more with the map system, the ability to call in strikes, your missile launches. How are your missile launches not even relegating to touching the screen on the map on the gamepad screen? I mean, and those are just simple, obvious things to me. And the fact that, even though, again, I like those games, just like I like Watch Dogs as a game, the gamepad integration was nil. It was embarrassing, and I feel like these companies should be embarrassed. I've brought up Fallout 4 recently, a game that I am probably the most hyped for coming into the end of the year. I think it's going to be probably the game of the year. I can't wait for it. And yes, a lot of some of the graphical tricks that they're using in Fallout 4 probably couldn't run optimally on the Wii U. There's no doubt. That doesn't mean they couldn't still probably make a version of Fallout that could still work and look just as good as Fallout 3 or New Vegas, or even a little bit better on the Wii U. But take advantage of that gamepad being your Pip-Boy. I've said this several times. You guys have heard me say this on a video. The gamepad is your Pip-Boy. If Bethesda, a company I love, still went out of their way to think, man, what's the best Fallout experience we could make? Well, you could shoot for the best graphics possible and put it on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, or you could also think that the experience could be made better by using the gamepad that Nintendo offers us when making games for their platform. And we can make a Pip-Boy right there. In fact, they've even done that, but instead of making it for the Wii U and using the gamepad, they have a different $150 version you can buy where they had to create their own Pip-Boy that they're selling you to put your phone into. To me, it shows that they, A, weren't willing to think creatively outside the box and take advantage of the amazing tool that Nintendo has provided developers in the gamepad, and it also kind of showed that they really just wanted to make a $200 version of Fallout to sell people, so they made their own plastic Pip-Boy that uses your phone, which, to be fair, I kind of want that Pip-Boy, but when I think of just the straight-up game development and the most efficient and best game experience, I think that Bethesda probably could have put some time and money to make a version that would have easily run on the Wii U. Even if it doesn't look as good, it could have run on that Wii U, but they would have said, hey, it's worth it to put the time, money, and resources into adapting a less good-looking version of Fallout 4 to also make this amazing controlling experience with their gamepad. And so anyway, this whole long sort of tangent is really just me making an example of it takes a creative developer with ambition and imagination to say Nintendo's machine may be a little less powerful than the machines we're working on for other games, but they have given us a tool. This tool is the gamepad. There's a lot of cool functions and features that we could create whole gameplay mechanics and worlds and functions around just using that gamepad tool that Nintendo has made for their gamers to experience. Why don't we start to think about a way to make that awesome for gaming? Let's make our game, whether it's a multi-platform game or a game exclusive to the Wii U, let's make it creative. Let's make it do cool things that we can't do on the PlayStation and Xbox One. Yeah, we can make our game for the PlayStation and Xbox One look better than we could on the Wii U, but we can make the game on the Wii U play better than we can on those other machines. How developers have been so blind to this, I simply don't know. And again, I say this as a fan of all gaming platforms, as an owner of all gaming platforms, and I'm not picking sides, but I am telling you that I absolutely feel that Nintendo's gamepad was the most innovative thing introduced this generation. Now, it wasn't fully capitalized on, so that's why I think a lot of people might have an argument where they say, well, I think the gamepad was shit, or obviously the gamepad wasn't good because there's not that many games that do cool things with it, and I won't really argue with you there. But I don't think that it's the gamepad you can fault for that. The innovative nature of the gamepad exists whether or not people have chosen to take advantage of it or not. So to me, I put the blame on a lot of the developers and even Nintendo a little bit because they probably could have taken more advantage and made more games. Where's our freaking Metroid Prime 4 on the Wii U that's using your scan visor on your gamepad, Nintendo? There's your missed opportunity right there. What are you doing? Why haven't you done that? So obviously, even Nintendo has to take some of the blame, but at the same time, they've made some great games that are taking advantage of the gamepad. I've given you a list of a couple games that I think are amazing on the gamepad that you have to play. Rayman Legends, Splinter Cell, Wonderful 101, Pikmin 3, Zombie U. I could look at my collection. Oh my god, Deus Ex Human Revolution. Amazing with the gamepad. And that is another third-party developer, by the way. So there are amazing revolutionary experiences you can have on the Wii U and its gamepad controller. But as I was saying, if somebody is going to argue there aren't that many great things that the gamepad is doing, you're kind of right by volume, you know, because there are more games not doing amazing things with the gamepad than there are games doing things with the gamepad. But again, coming into a cyclical argument, so I'm going to wrap myself up here, it's up to the developers to make sure that they're taking advantage of this tool. You know, and yes, the Wii U might hinder some other things like certain graphical things that you just can't achieve on that system because it's not powerful enough, but it gives you a different tool. So game developers think in different ways creatively. Some indie developers are doing great things with the gamepad. I know my man Terminator Juice will appreciate me bringing up Affordable Space Adventures, which is a Wii U indie game exclusive that makes amazing use of the gamepad. More people should be doing these things, So at the end of the day, I asked the question, is the gamepad the most innovative thing introduced to the gaming industry this generation, according to Scott Moffat? And although the potential hasn't been reached and probably never will be reached by the end of the Wii U's life, I still think that, yes, it is the most innovative thing. There's been nothing else that has been mind-blowing or game-changing for gaming that was introduced this generation. Now, one last thing I want to bring up is you can argue that, touchscreen gaming is used on cell phone games and mobile games and tablet games. And that is 100% true. And that even existed before the Wii U and its gamepad. But the reason I think the gamepad still qualifies is because this is something that is for a console. This is changing our console experiences. This is changing the way we play games like Pikmin and Zelda and Rayman, like I said, other things that you're not going to be playing on your tablet and your mobile device. You're not going to play the Wind Waker or Zombie U on your mobile device. Okay, so that doesn't really count. Not to mention, it's again seamlessly integrated into a console's UI and into the Miiverse, and also still comes with tried and true functional buttons and analog sticks, something that mobile gaming doesn't afford you. So that's another reason why that argument to me doesn't really hold up. And I still think that means that the gamepad is really the most innovative thing brought to the gaming industry this generation. So that's it. That's enough tangents for me, and that's pretty much how I feel about it. I say, bravo to Nintendo for thinking and trying something new. Obviously, it wasn't fully capitalized on, so you can argue that it maybe didn't do what it was supposed to do or what it was promised. But as a functional device, as a controller that promised the ability to do new things, it still did achieve those things because it does offer those abilities, and it's just an amazing tool waiting for people to pick it up and say, I know how to make a great game using you, gamepad, so now we're going to make it. And, maybe we'll get another couple surprises by the end of the Wii U's life, but I don't really think. I think Star Fox is probably going to be the last major gamepad game before the Wii U is done and we step into the NX. So, I don't know. That's where that'll be exciting. We'll have to see how that all plays out next year. Either way, those are my thoughts on the words of Scott Moffat, what he's been saying about the Wii U and how innovative he and Nintendo think the gamepad truly are. I agree with it, even though developers haven't taken advantage of it. What do you guys think? Do you agree with the words he said? Do you agree with my assessment of his words and of the gamepad in the gaming industry today? Or do you think that it's all totally crazy and you just think that the gamepad sucks and the Wii U sucks? I'm sure there'll be many people out there saying the same thing, and that's fine. You have at it. You have fun with that. I love the gamepad. I love the Wii U. I think it's amazing. Thanks as always for watching, guys. This is Rob of Rule of Two Review, and I'll catch you guys next time on another video.